Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Phil Watkins, the chairman of Maldon Camera Club. If you haven't seen me before, as winners of last year's competition, a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest, we seem to have to host it this year. We did actually have a hall booked in a different age, but it seemed a shame not to run it. So as we become vaguely proficient in Zoom, we thought we'd try it this way. I did invite all the clubs that participated last year, but unfortunately, some of them didn't actually want to participate this year, so we're down a bit in numbers. But we've got Braintree, Clacton, Colchester, Halstead, Harwich, and Mersey. And I'd like to thank their competition secretaries for promptly getting the entries in to me. I didn't have to do any chasing, which was nice. As we've got less entries, I thought after we've gone through the main images, I'll ask Tony to go through the reserves as well, and to have some comments on those. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our judge, Tony Oliver, who I believe comes from the Wiltshire area.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things I found with getting judges over Zoom, you're never quite sure where they're coming from. Some have been in lockdown, some have been in Ireland. It's been all over the place, but it's very nice because you get to see a lot more different judges in the local area. So that's very good. Okay, so if you're ready, Tony.
Yeah, I'm ready, Phil. Can I ask that you could mute other people, please, whilst I'm judging, because it gets a bit distracting when phones ring.
Yes, yes, I'll do that.
So I'll say a few words before we start, but are you going to do a run through when we're ready?
Yeah, I'll do a run through. Yeah.
Shall I just say a few words of introduction before we start?
Yeah, please do. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Good evening, everybody. Many thanks for inviting me. As Phil says, it is really nice. One of the few good things about the current situation photographically is that I'm getting to meet a lot of people all over the country, and it really is good fun because you get to know your own clubs and your own members in your own federation quite well. But it's nice to see different approaches and different ideas. And at the end of the day, we're all photographers, aren't we? So we're doing the same thing. But it's still nice to spread our wings a little bit further. A little bit about me, because probably some of you are thinking, who am I? Or what am I? Yeah, as you can see, I'm Tony Oliver. I'm a member of Salisbury Camera Club. Been a member of Salisbury Camera Club since 2004 when I retired from the fire service. That enabled me really to take up photography, which I was always interested in. Been judging for the last 10, 11 years in the Southern Counties Federation, but also in a few national exhibitions and interfed exhibitions as well. So I still enjoy doing all sorts of judging. And it's great fun. It's a privilege, and I'm looking forward to this evening. So that's a bit about me, and any questions you have of me at any stage or in the interval or at the end, I'm more than happy to answer them, or any comments I've made that you want to sort of ask me questions about, please do. It's a free and open evening. Okay, Phil, many thanks.
Okay, fine.
Just check my volume's okay, is it?
Yeah, it's fine. Yes. Yeah.
That's right, I've unmuted myself now.
Okay, fine.
It's not much of an evening for the judges muted, to be honest.
Okay, I'm just what's happened here.
Got somebody else's screen there, Phil.
Yeah, it's all right. So I'm just.
No, so I was viewing David Clark's screen then, so I don't know how that.
Yeah. You should see a test image now.
Yeah, I've got that
got
absolutely fine. Thank you. It looks
fine. Good. Right. Okay. I'm just going to start the run through then.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I lost my screen there now.
Oh, have you? Sorry. What's happened there then?
It was there, and then I had the test screen. I've gone back to the gallery screen of all the people now.
Oh, right. Let me just see what's happening.
Is that just me? Is everybody else seeing the same thing? That's better. Back again now.
Right. Okay. Okay, this is called Portrait of Amy.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, there's a lovely range of images here. I think it's always worthwhile before I start judging, just saying that these are my views. Doesn't mean they're necessarily right. I'll obviously try and clarify why I like an image or don't like one so strongly. But there's always a degree of subjectivity in any photographic or artistic interpretation. So yeah, it's always worth bearing that in mind. But no, it's a good, strong portrait to start with, isn't it? And Amy's been taken very much in the profile. Makes it quite a two-dimensional picture, but some quite strong, dramatic profile lighting there. Gives us the ring lighting around the nose and around the chin, and I think that's what the photographer was trying to show us in this picture, the sort of the strength of that profile, and the lighting has been well controlled there. I enjoy the way that the right-hand side of the picture starts to sort of to disappear into the darker background, really. So we really are concentrating on the subject's face, and her character, which is coming through quite strongly. Doesn't always work, I don't think, in a profile that you get that engagement because the subject is looking out of the image. But I don't think that matters here. I think there's a good sort of cat's light in the eye there. There's a nice little lighting triangle under the eye as well, gives it a bit of life. And I think I feel fully engaged with her as the subject, which is what you're trying to achieve when taking the photograph and when getting someone to view it. And I think the inclusion of the red hair braids there, I'm doing as part of her natural hair dye. Maybe all her hair is that color actually, and just a bit of light on it is highlighting that red. So that adds a little bit of an impact to the whole overall composition as well. An 8. Sorry, I mark out of 10 normally in Southern Federation. So if I slip into marking out of 10, just explain and I'll double it up to marking out of 20. But it's a 16 to start with, please.
Fine. This is called Royale. Oh, Reveal. Sorry, Reveal.
Well, it might be Revel actually.
Yeah, Revel. Yes.
Revel is probably the name of the dog. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, canine portraits are very popular both in camera clubs and photographic societies, but also as a business. I know a couple of people who do this professionally, and they seem to get far more commissions doing dog portraits than they do real portraits. I enjoy the way that you got Revel here sort of fill in the frame. I think square format works well. It has sort of a balanced feel to it in a portrait, and because you've got this very distinct round head and face, which is enhanced by the curvature of the ears coming in, and it gives you a good compositional center, a circle to the center of this image, and that will always balance well with a square format because you've got equal corners, and you don't get an emphasis on the height or width. So that format choice is good. I enjoy the detail that's coming through in the coat, and you've got that very well photographed. It's really sharp actually, and often when you got a portrait like this with a dog, probably its nose pressed right up against the lens, it can be a little bit out of focus either in the nose or in the eyes. But you've got a good aperture there. You've got that focus running through from front to back. I feel there's an engagement with the subject, with those cat's lights in the eyes and some life in the eyes as well. And Revel looks alert. Doesn't he or she? I'm not sure what gender dog. But they look alert. They're enjoying having their picture taken. And whether you had to wait for that moment where the mouth was sort of panting open, or you were tantalizingly holding a treat in front of it, I don't know, but it's worked. It's like photographing a child, isn't it? You get the attention and you get the image. Monochrome is an interesting thing, isn't it? If you take the color away from the image, you are asking other elements of the composition to work more strongly. Whether there would be a little bit more life in this, in a color image, particularly in the eyes and in the tongue, I don't know. I do obviously respect the fact that it's the photographer's choice to show it this way, and I think your rendition of the monochrome is good. I mean, there's lovely tones throughout the image. I like the way you just burnt it in the corners to hold it into that center as well, and it has a good symmetry to it. But it would be interesting perhaps to see it as a color image also. But that's another 16, please.
Breaking the rule of 6.
Undoubtedly are, but I'm not the one that tells them. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting natural history shot taken on safari somewhere, isn't it? And and these are dangerous animals, reputed to kill more people in Africa than any other animal. So you don't want to get too close, particularly if you're in a flimsy boat. And yeah, I mean, it's quite a chaotic picture. You've got a lot of hippo there, sort of blending away into the background and in the foreground there. And you need to introduce some sort of order into this composition. And I think you've achieved that by having the focus on that dominant beast on the left-hand side there. It's more contrast in the tones of the skin there. I think you've deliberately done that. It seems to be a bit sharper. So you have got your subject, and the other hippo become supporting. sort of supporting cast in the composition and in the narrative and in the story. And I think that works okay for you. In the previous image, we sort of had just toned down the edges a little bit and gave us a slight vignette, and I think that held the centre of the picture well. And I do wonder if that might be a benefit to this picture, particularly in the top half. I find that top half a little bit light, maybe even just a gradient filter coming down sort of a quarter of the way, but just darken it down a little bit so we could concentrate a bit more on the beast in the middle there. But you've got some quite attentive looks, haven't you, from the eyes of the other ones as well, just sort of peering through the eyelids as well. It's another image that may have impact as a colour. Again, there's not to say I don't like it as a mono. I think it's a well taken picture. That's a 17, please.
OC View.
This is becoming a very popular location for images. I'm starting to see quite a few of these in exhibitions now. We had a talk by Tony Robiek. I don't know if anybody knows him, a professional local photographer, well, very nationally well known. Does a lot of seaside photography, and had a talk with him the other night, and he had some pictures of these huts as well. And they are very, very photogenic. You know, I think most photographers would like to have an attempt at interpreting them in their own way, which I think the photographer has done well here. I like the fact you've just chosen 3. I know there's more than the 3 in location, but you've just chosen just these 3 specifically. I enjoy the way that, again, this is the way they are, because I don't suppose you've gone there and actually moved them, but I like the way you photographed it, where the central one is very 2-dimensional, and the flanking huts have that 3-dimensional aspect to them because they're going in on the side view as well. And I like the way that then draws us into the middle of the picture to that sort of light area coming out above the hut there. Classic, very, very long exposure gives us this sort of milky feeling. And yeah, it can be overdone. It's a bit of a personal taste, isn't it, sometimes? Because it doesn't only just sort of milkify the sea, but you get this streakiness of the clouds where the longer exposure gives us a sort of a blurring of the clouds. But I like it. I think it works okay. And very pleasing, soft pastel tones to this picture. And what I particularly like actually about this is the fact you've got some detail in the foreground. You know, you've totally sort of flatten the sea down this long exposure, and you tend to lose detail when you do that. But I think you're fortunate to have that little sort of curve, semicircle there, pebbles just under the surface of the water there, which gives us some pleasing foreground detail and leading us into the picture. Balances really well. I enjoy that one, and I'll hold that one back. I will be holding some back for the sort of final placings and just to build a bit of competition tension up. So that's a hold back, please.
Sunrise in the mist.
Yeah, lovely atmosphere to this again. You can feel the cold, can't you? It's misty, it's murky. You borrowed 3 birds off somebody's wall, made an image in the top right-hand corner there. Used to see those flying across people's chimney breasts in years gone by. But no, I'm just jesting, really. You know, you do get that feeling of location, which I like to see in a landscape image. I like the way that the birds on the right hand side balance the bulrushes on the left hand side. You've got 5 and 3, that doesn't matter. That does balance the composition well. There is a little bit of digital artifact on the bulrushes just to the right of the second one in from the left. It's minimal, but it caught my eye and it still catches my eye. And I'm pretty sure you've cloned out a rush head that's going across the third one as well. I can understand why you've done it, because you want that sort of separation. And it is minuscule, but it did catch my eye. It is very difficult to take that out, given that sort of misty background, very, very soft misty background. And you haven't made a bad job of it, to be fair. So I'm fine nitpicking with that, to be honest, but it is worth mentioning it. You've got this lovely sort of sharpness in the foreground here with the sort of cold feeling of the frost on the grasses there, and the angles of those grasses and those reeds really sort of make me feel of winter, think of winter anyhow. And you've got that little bit of contrast with the warmth just bleeding through the mist in the background there. Just gives a pleasing feel to the composition. I'll hold that one back as well, please.
Summer view.
I enjoy the colours and the impact of this one. It's funny how pictures sort of follow in succession with a very, very soft tonality of the previous image to much stronger, vibrant colours in this one. And it's a different feel to a landscape. There's bits of this I like. I like the first feel about it, the impact of the colour, the reds, the blues, the crop in the field, etc. But it looks a bit contrived, and I think there's a lot of work being done to this which doesn't quite work. There's some work's been done on the sky, which is not technically as good as I might like to see. And bear in mind, this is a competition. I'm having to compare images directly against other images, or else it wouldn't be a competition. So I do need to comment on points which make images less strong. And again, there's been work being done in the sky there. If you look to the left of the wild oats there at the top, there's still some bits of wild oat or something just to the left of that one where something's been taken out but hasn't been cloned out properly. Around the tree lines where the sky meets the trees, you've done some work there, which again doesn't quite harmonise. These are fine points, but they're important when you look at the overall image. And I do find that sort of Wurzel gummish tree in the middle of the cornfield just looks a little bit unnatural to me. Not the tree, just the location of it. And I could be doing you a disservice because it might well be in the middle of that field, but maybe because it's just a little bit sharp or over sharp. But it has the feeling to me that it's just been put in there as opposed to being there. I apologise if that's not the case. That's just the way it feels. Having said that, it does make for a pleasing composition because the wild oats there just point back to that diagonal visual line, which meets with that tree and takes you on through the picture. So I think the composition works well here, actually. It's just the technical side of it, I think, is perhaps not quite as strong as some of the other images. So that's a 15, please.
Hot rod.
Yeah, classic piece of American motor engineering, isn't it? And what I really like about this picture, because you're trying to show us a powerful motor car. There's a lot of horsepower under that bonnet, and it's you can almost hear it sort of peeling out the carburetors and getting ready to do the hot rod track. And you want to have this feeling of a strong, powerful, almost aggressive vehicle. And the way I think you've achieved that is by your positioning, by shooting low and shooting up towards the picture. It changes the relationship or creates the relationship between the subject and the photographer. And the car becomes much more dominant in this picture, which I think is very much in keeping with the subject you're trying to portray. It would work in mono, wouldn't it? Because it is a very monochromatic image in its own way. But I think I quite like the way that you've got monochrome foreground and background with a fairly even sort of flattish tones, which then I think the emphasis on the black and white color tones there and the stronger contrast work well. Again, it gives this stronger feeling of domination of the subject within the picture there. Good detail, good sharp front to back. Yeah, I think this is in many ways a simple subject, and a lot of photographers I think would struggle to actually get a strong image from it. But I think you've done well with this one. So that's a 17, please.
Yellow baboons at dawn.
Yeah, again, it never ceases to amaze me again that the breadth of subjects which A, we photograph, and B, we put into competition. Because there's just so many things in open competitions which we see. I do enjoy this picture. It's a good, strong natural history image. It has good, strong pictorial content as well. The lighting in many ways makes it, or is the strength of this picture. I enjoy the way that it picks out the coats of the baboons there. Pleasing rim lighting around the back of the ones on the branch there in the center. You've got a good, strong compositional triangle there, those three in the middle as well. And I like the way you've got sort of it's the moment you've caught really, where you've got the baboons are doing something. They're not just sitting there. The one at the bottom there is looking quite attentive at something out of picture, or maybe to the other one on the right hand side. The two at the top there are preening or doing something there. But there's a narrative again to this, a story which I think works well. And your lighting, I think the way that the background has been separated from the foreground again, works well for you. It gives us some context, it gives us a location, but there's no distraction in that background at all. It's just subdued, and it's just additional information as opposed to being a conflict with the rest of the picture. So I'm in a run of good images at the moment. By no means don't expect me to hold them all back. I will hold this one back as well, please.
Sunny window.
Yeah, very classic piece of still life photography, isn't it, really? Never overlook natural light coming in from a window. It can be soft, it can give you some soft angles, some shadows, a little bit of light amplification on the right hand side there. It's picking up the pink on the white walls. It's a good light source, and often photographers will overlook what's there by trying to add their own light sources in. There's two pictures here actually. I quite like the subject itself with the quite good detail in the flower arrangement there. I like the fact then that you're taken through the picture and there's a good exposure beyond. You've been fortunate enough to have a pathway leading through the picture beyond, which takes us even further into the composition. So it gives us a good three-dimensional feel. And that frame within a frame is a good, strong compositional tool, which I think you've used well here. I am a bit distracted by whatever that is in the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like a dead leaf, actually, doesn't it? And maybe, I don't know. I just wonder why you left it there. I mean, with a still life like this, you've got a long time to, I think you've got a long time to set it up anyhow. And, you know, you can check the back of your screen to see what image you've got. And unless you deliberately wanted to leave that in there, which maybe you did to contrast life and death, possibly I'm missing the story here. But I just find that a little bit of a distraction and takes away from the impact of the picture a little bit. Maybe not quite as strong as some of the other images here this evening, but well photographed and got a good control of lighting from interior and exterior, and you've got a good exposure on that. That's a 15, please.
Be on H&DPS.
Yeah, I think you photographed this well. There's lots of elements of it about this I like. I think it's a little bit unfortunate that the echinacea is a lot larger than the bee is. And so though we got bee on echinacea, it's almost like echinacea with bee on top, because your eye goes to the flower to start with. Beautifully photographed, lots of detail there. You can see all the pollen that's on the stamens, which is very much the reason the bee is there. And look at the pollen on the bee as well. I mean, it's absolutely smothered with it. So really well photographed. And I know how difficult it can be to actually photograph bees because they never sit still as long as you want them to. They flip. You just better get them in focus and they flit onto the next flower head. I enjoy the fact you've got the little bit of movement in the wings there. It just gives us that little bit of a blur sort of action. Good depth of field, which you're going to get with the macro lens anyhow, throws the background right out of focus. But we still get the feeling of the natural location with the greens and the browns and the sort of feeling of a garden behind. So, you know, really well photographed. Difficult to criticize the way you have taken this. Again, looking at it as a direct comparison to other images, I have to put it in the ranking order, and that's a 17, please.
Humpback whale, bubble net feeding.
Yeah, I hazard to guess this wasn't taken off the coast of Clacton, but it really is an interesting natural history shot, isn't it? Funny enough, I was watching a program on the Arctic this week on the television, and they were showing these humpback whales bubble feeding, and they corral millions of herring in between sort of a group of these whales, and then they just eat them all. Incredible natural behavior. This one again is a little bit like the hippopotamus picture, isn't it? You've got a lot going on. You're trying to get some sort of order out of your chaos. And I think where you've got the dominant whale just coming up there on the left, just left of center, I think it gives us that focus. I really enjoy the way that you've got this feeling of movement and action where the water is just crescendoing or cascading, sorry, off of the fin of the whale there on the right-hand side. It gives us this good feeling of the moment. The gulls in the background there gives us a bit more information, a bit more sense of location. I only assume we're on a whale spotting trip somewhere, but you certainly got your money's worth, didn't you? And the background, again, gives us the feeling of where we are, some sort of Arctic or polar region, snow-capped mountains there, very softly diffused, because your focus is sat firmly upon the whales themselves. I'd like to hold that one back, please.
Coffee time.
Yeah. You can go all across the world to take pictures of whales, which are really good, or hippopotami, which are really good too. Or you can sit at home and think, what am I going to do? And get out a coffee cup and some beans and a red spoon and come up with a cracking image. A lot of thought has gone into this. I enjoy the way, I mean, visually, I like the impact it creates to start with. The tones of the white china there are very pleasing and very soft, in the shape and the flow of that, I think, works particularly well in the image. The harsh sort of impact of the red spoon above, I think, again, complements the rest of the composition well. And what I really enjoy about this, actually, you haven't just got your coffee beans pouring into the cup. We've got a process here, haven't we? We've got beans going from spoon. Halfway down that sort of cascade, they suddenly miraculously start to turn to the ground coffee. And then even below that, you've got some coffee in the coffee cup. So the whole process has been captured in your imagination and in your photograph. By having no other distraction whatsoever, which is concentrating on the simple composition there. But there is a very strong natural flow here from the top of that spoon down to the coffee beans, and then just following the natural curvature and lines of the cup there. The eye goes very, very readily through the image. And I think the icing on the cake, really, your deliberate inclusion here of the softer reflection in the surface beneath. And yeah, I think that's an added bonus composition. And yes, I will hold that one back, please.
Feeding time.
Yeah, similar sort of picture in subject to the bee on the echinacea. It doesn't quite have the same impact. The photographer's not gone in quite as closely here. You haven't quite got that relationship between the flower and the insect. But technically you've taken it well. It's well in focus where it needs to be, which is around the flower head and around the insect itself. The bee just looks a little bit more sedate than the previous one, which perhaps just takes the impact away a little bit. I think your choice of flower, or the bee's choice of flower, works well because you've got these pleasing red petals as part of their natural colouring, which the complementary colours with the green actually work quite well. But I do find the green background a little bit overpowering. It's quite bright. It's a vivid green, isn't it? And my eye is getting sort of absorbed by the power of that green, rather than where you want me to look at, which is in the centre where the bee is. Perhaps just select that and just desaturate it a little bit on the greens would draw the eye a little bit back into the centre again, maybe. Well positioned though, compositionally. Again, that sort of nearly square format and that central compositional circle, again, do work well. That's a 15, please.
A rose in the window.
Yeah, another piece of still life photography. The photographer is set out with a deliberate plan, if you like, to show the image or to portray the picture here the way they want to do it. Very high key, lost a lot of detail, but that's deliberate. I think personally it's been overdone a little bit, and we just lost a little bit too much detail. We've got some very bright edges around the leaves there, which to me are a bit grating against the softer and delicate tones and shapes of the flower head above. I actually quite like the rose head. I think you've got some lovely shape and texture in that. But beneath that, I think the leaf, the stem, and the glass, the decanter of the vase, perhaps it is a personal taste maybe, I just think that's been a little bit overcooked. Your composition is fairly good though, where you've got this coming in on an angle, and then the frame going up on the left, which holds the rose in the vase and the stem in together. Yeah, I quite like the soft sort of pastel feel of the coloration, but again, I just come back to the overall impact, the expressive quality of the picture, and to me, it is a little bit too harsh. So that's a 13, please.
Overflow.
Yeah, we're into a run of still life photography now, aren't we? Very good for you blueberries, apparently, my optician tells me. So have a bowl of a spoonful of those with your cereal each morning. I like your composition. I enjoy the fact you haven't chosen to show a whole bowl here. You're just showing us a quarter, if you like. You don't need to see the whole bowl, do you? You can see that it's full, or the bit you're showing us is full anyhow. And they've started to sort of overflow onto the floor beneath. I'm finding it a bit distracting that the bowl on the right hand side and the blueberries within, they're nicely photographed, they're sharp, and I've got the detail, I've got the texture, the lighting works well. The ones on the surface beneath, much softer focus, they're not sharp. Maybe you don't want them to be, but they're quite important to the composition, particularly if you've got them on this fairly warm background. Maybe difficult to get both of them in focus with a single shot. If you could have taken 2 shots, which would have been easy just to blend the 2 together, focus on the right hand side 1 shot, focus on the left hand side 2 shots, blend them together, have them equally sharp, I think it would have been a little bit stronger. 14, please.
White throat in full song.
It's certainly giving out the song here, isn't it? And you caught that moment of the birds singing particularly well. Very bright day, and I think you handled the exposure well. Bearing in mind you've got some light colours under the throat there and some darker colours on the head, so you've got contrasts in plumage, and you've got detail in both of those, which I think is good. I would like to see it a little bit sharper. You're looking at a specific natural history subject here, and I want to see it in detail. And it's okay, but it could be a little bit sharper just around that head and eye and beak. I wonder if this has been taken perhaps at the far end of the telephoto lens and just getting a little bit soft, a little bit of movement perhaps. It just fractionally lets it down. But having said that, it's still a perfectly acceptable capture of the white throat. Very, again, vivid green colours, background and foreground. I don't find them too much of a distraction in this picture, because I think the proportions of the bird within the image and the detail you've got there override those. So apart from the fact that, say, I would just like to see it fractional, a bit sharper around certain areas. It's a fairly good capture. That's a 16, please.
Low tide.
Yeah, it's gone out, hasn't it, really? And giving you a good choice of foreground interest for your landscape here. Sometimes these landscape pictures, seascapes like this with rocks and boulders, can work strongly if you have a specific one as your foreground interest, which dominates and leads through. Here the photographer is just showing us a selection, which gives us a basic foreground interest. It does lead us then through into that middle ground where the tidal pool is. I like the little bit of green that's left on the edge of the rock there. And then we've got the background interest of the castle. A few people you can just see walking along the sand there as well. But your lighting it's okay. It's a pleasant day, isn't it? But to get drama from a picture like this, you do need your lighting in it. It's the element that's, yeah, it may be the only time of the day you were there and that's what you could get. But some evening lighting, some side lighting, or early morning lighting would give us a bit more drama to the composition. And the composition itself is workable. It's okay. It just needs a little bit more dramatic lighting, I think. 14, please.
Lines.
I enjoy the impact of this. once my eyes sort of settle down again. It's got sort of movement, hasn't it? Really, it's like one of those pictures you look at for long enough and you see things within it. And yes, you've seen this, whatever it is, boarding or advertising, or might even be grating. I'm not quite sure. Creates a great background, and it's so you've got your ready-made juxtaposition here for a bit of street photography, and you've got these waited for these people walk by. I enjoy the way they're very much in step there. You've got the two legs there just beautifully paralleled in step, and that does work well. The thing I find a little bit distracting about this is that alarm point, or the light up on the right hand side at the top. Yeah, you may want to leave that in there to break up the pattern, and that's that's the way it could be looked at. Personally, I find it a bit distracting. It would be quite easy just to cut and paste a bit from the left hand side and flip it and cover that one up, and not have that distraction. But yeah, it might just be my personal interpretation of it. But yeah, I think it's impactful, isn't it? And certainly works well in monochrome. 16, please.
Reach for the sky.
Yeah, I like architectural photography and modern architecture. It's got such strong geometrical lines and angles to it to give impact. You've got this wide angle lens here, which is maybe even fisheye lens, which is giving this distortion to the buildings. And I like that. You don't always have to have your building perpendicular and upright. It all just leads up to that central point at the top of the tower there. We've got some good tones in the blacks and the whites here as well. Good detail in the dark and shaded areas as well as the lit areas. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for detail throughout the picture. And I think we've got that in there well. It's quite grainy, isn't it? And but I think that's a deliberate choice of your processing. I don't think that detracts from the image at all. And it's quite a mundane urban landscape in the base there, but the strength of this image is the way it draws you up through to that upper part of the picture. 16, please.
Dandelion seed with water drops.
Yeah, let's go minimalist. Half this picture is white, so you're certainly going to economize on your printing if you're going to print this one out. But I like this. I really do. And for some obscure reason, it reminds me of a COVID advert, and germs sort of blowing in the wind and droplets you don't want. So you maybe have a possible use for this picture. But no, I personally enjoy minimalist pictures. They have to be well taken. They have to have a meaning and sort of impact to them. But I like the way this is sort of bent and blowing in the wind. You have the feeling those droplets are going to blow off and disappear to the left of the picture and fill that empty space at some stage. We've created a little bit of shadow there at the base, which is just a few more pixels in the image, but it adds a little bit of a base to that part of the picture as well. Doesn't look quite so pasted on. So yeah, I enjoy the overall impact, and it's a sort of picture I think would do quite well in a series, in a panel of similar types of images. 16 for that one, please.
A frosty sunrise.
Yeah, this one you get the feeling of the morning, sort of winter, don't you? The winter's morning. Very, very calm, very tranquil, really. Probably this time when you get this what they call temperature inversion, where there's no wind movement at all. There's nothing to disturb that very exact reflection you've got of the building there. Looks like an old watermill, perhaps, and the bushes and the vegetation there, very clear in the water. You've got this moment just right. I think you caught that just right, just before the sun crests over the horizon there. If it actually came over the horizon, it would be it starts to burn the picture out too much. But you caught that just right, and it gives us that good contrast between the warmth of the coming day and the cold of the night. So I like the way that's just diffusing through the mist on the hill on the right hand side there as well. I do wonder if it might have benefited from a slice off the top and a slice off the bottom, just letterbox it a little bit more, particularly the top above the pink line. I think yeah, it's worth looking at, just taking a slice off there. But it's still a pleasing and well taken landscape. 17, please. That's about halfway, Phil. Do you want to keep going for more, or you tell me when? That's fine.
Perhaps another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, no, you
That'd
just
be
say.
fine.
I was
Yep. Micrometer.
Yeah, micrometer screw gauge, and if you're going to show a detailed piece of engineering like this, you want to get all that detail in there. And the photographer really has done that well here, haven't they? Simple subject, isolated from the background with your lighting there, and probably black background anyhow. So we're just concentrating really on the engineering and the detail there. I don't mind at all that the back of the gauge is just drifting out of focus there. I mean, unless you're going to photo stack this, you're never going to get it on focus anyhow. And that's not necessary because the detail around the gauge, the threads and the markings there, I think you know, are exquisite actually, really, really good. And you get the feeling of texture and you know, the metal. You can feel that and touch it within this image, and that is the benefit of monochromatic photography. By taking out other elements, you start to concentrate on texture and line and shape and other such things. And I think that works well within this picture. So I'll hold that one back, please.
Mandrill mother with baby.
Yeah, I mean the picture itself is very much that sort of a just off central area of the mother mandrill and the baby there, and very much made by the two eyes really, the adults and the child or the babies, particularly the babies. That got a very infant sort of curiosity in it, hasn't it? In the way it's looking towards us, and good catchlight in the eye there gives us some good light. Lots of good detail in the fur as well. Another illustration of a good use of the depth of field, just throwing that background out of focus, but we still have that feeling of a natural location with the greens and the other sort of colours of vegetation beyond. 16, please.
Going for the hoop.
I think you've caught the moment well here. You know, sports photography, you're going to take a lot of pictures. A lot are not going to work, and you get some where the action is just about right. And I think you caught the moment here where the you know the basket is just about to be scored, and so we have this feeling of action and of movement. It's difficult when you know on an interior location like this, you've got some quite harsh lighting to get your lighting perhaps right. And I think there are areas of this that are starting to burn out to the detriment of the image, particularly on the arm of the jumper there, the lower arm at the top there. That is literally burnt out completely, and you're starting to lose detail in his face as well. You know, it's difficult to get everything perfect because this is action photography. It's not like taking a still life; you've got much more control over it. But it does detract a little bit from the impact of the overall image. I like the way though that both players have got their hands sort of reaching up in some sort of almost desperation, isn't it? Really, one defending and one attacking there. So that does give us a feeling of drama. 15, please.
Jan Wobble and the Invaders of the Heart.
Yeah, you certainly got the feeling of the saxophonist there, haven't you? I watched a documentary this week on Ronnie Scott's jazz club, and they had a chap there playing I think they're playing a trumpet, and he had his cheeks were puffed out about 3 times the size of this chap. So I've never seen anything like it. Because this chap here is certainly giving it a good go, isn't he? And yeah, this sort of photography, live stage photography, you're very much you know, at the mercy really of the people who lit the stage, and you haven't got a lot of control over that element yourself. You're taking it this probably at quite a high ISO, so you get a little bit of graininess, but I quite like the feeling of that. It gives us sort of this natural sort of nightclub sort of feel about it. I do think this personally, I think this would work better in monochrome. For one reason only, that the chap on the right in the fluorescent orange jacket, it is it's fluorescent, it's high conspicuity for a purpose, and it draws my eye to that high conspicuity area. Put that in monochrome, and it just becomes a jacket, and you concentrate more on the lead, the lead player at the front there. It's a minor observation. It's just one that I'd make. I think it would make the image stronger. But I still like the fact you caught this moment of the performance, and I get the feel of the performance. It's not staged. It's really happening there. So that's a 17, please.
Fine. If we stop at that point, for,
okay,
let's say till 9, would that be?
Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. This is called Felixstowe Flow.
Yeah, and a nice one to start the second half with, isn't it? And I think the title sums it up. It does flow. It draws you through the image. This sort of semicircle that flows through the image, and it worked particularly well. And it is a good example of timing as well, isn't it? I mean, you could take this picture midday and you wouldn't have the same impact, I don't think. But because you've got this, you're east, aren't you? So it's dawn lighting coming in there. But it really makes the image dramatic. And I like the way that it just sort of is reflecting on the surface of the water there as well. So you've got this long exposure, giving us this milkiness. I like the way that is then broken up by the individual. I don't know what this structure is actually, some sort of coastal defences. I really don't know. But those individual elements of that stand out quite strongly from the Milky Sea. But I like the fact you've got that lighting just illuminating off the top of the rock and off the top of the off the top of the rocks there as well. Because the long exposure, as I said, with clouds, it creates an additional effect which people don't always expect. I think it tends to work better if the clouds are going from front to back or back to front through the picture as opposed to across the picture. That may be a personal interpretation, but I found it works better that way. When they're going across the picture, they tend to sort of smudge a little bit. I think, oops, hang on, we're losing. Sorry. Just finish. Yeah, but I think that's rescued by the colour that's coming through there and the warmth of the colour. So yeah, the first one in the second half, I'll hold that one back, please.
Iconic Marilyn.
Yeah, I think we all know the picture which the title refers to. Very difficult, isn't it, to follow something which is iconic with a picture which you're trying to recreate that iconicism, if there is such a word. Sorry, can you just mute the mic, please? I find it a little bit distracting.
Yeah, there's some.
It's not a problem. It just distracts me slightly from my flow. So if that's possible, just to mute them, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I think we should be okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. It's just a slight distraction. I think this works to a degree. I mean, you're definitely recreating a pose. She looks very Marilyn Monroe-like, no doubt about that. I do find the exposure perhaps a little bit bright. I think we could do with a little bit more detail in the skin tones and the arms and the face there. And I just find it sounds a little bit sort of strange, maybe. It just lacks a little bit of spontaneity. It looks a little bit posed, if you like. And I know it is posed, but the classic Marilyn Monroe pictures are very spontaneous, and you get that impact and that real sort of wow factor. And say maybe because it is just hard to recreate that. Because there's nothing wrong technically with this picture, apart from the fact that I say it might be slightly, for my taste, slightly a stop too exposed. But the details there, I can't really say that it isn't. And I think her pose, she definitely knows what she's doing with that sort of angle of the legs and the feet just off the ground there. She's not static. And you get that feeling of movement with the skirt on the horizontal there, which gives that good strong right angle with the legs and the arms. So there's elements of this that do work. I just think that to me it doesn't really hold my attention as long as perhaps some of the other pictures do. So that's a 15, please.
Frozen. I have difficulty with this.
Geom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. I think it's really impactful, isn't it? And again, something you can do in the winter quite easily. Set yourself a little project. Get a old ice cream tub, put water in it, stick flowers in it, stick it outside, or even in the freezer, and see what comes up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one does. I think that this is like a Renaissance oil painting. I love the colours there in the reds and the sort of all like brushstroke created by the ice there. I really do enjoy that. And you've got different sort of levels and layers as you go through the ice. Where you've got you know, a greater depth of clarity, then much more obscurity as it goes into the depth. Then I like the contrast also of the warm and the cold. You know, the bottom right hand side is really hot and warm, then it's progressing up to that really cold feel in the top left hand of the picture there. I think you've added a little bit of lighting here, maybe to burn through the ice, which I think works well because it shows us some quite clear detail actually in the ice itself, particularly in that center there where that sort of more yellowy area is. It's almost like looking at a little world, if you like. So you can tell that I'm enjoying this picture because I am. And I'll hold it back, please.
Cuckoo landing.
Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot of cuckoo pictures as I judge competitions, which annoys me because I've never ever seen one. I've heard a lot of them, but I've never ever seen a cuckoo. And to be fair, what I like about this one, I think it probably is a cuckoo in the wild. And some of the ones I see, I think people want to say captive cuckoo, but they know where it is, and a lot of people go and photograph the same cuckoo. So I think you've caught the actual bird landing here well. It's a good illustration of the cuckoo. You've got good detail in the under feathers there, really good and sharp around the eye and around the beak there. And bearing in mind, this is a moving target coming towards you, not static. You and your camera's tracking system have worked really well. The bit that is a distraction, and it's unfortunate really, because it's what the cuckoo's coming in to land on, is this post, and it's quite dominant size-wise in the composition. I mean, you know, it takes up as much pixel area as the bird does itself, and although you know it is the depth of field does throw it out of focus a little bit, it is still to me a visual distraction to the bird beyond. Which is a pity because I think you photographed the cuckoo coming in there particularly well. 14, please.
Pomegranates.
Yeah, there's another one that has a sort of feeling of a Renaissance oil painting or something similar, doesn't it? You've got the texture there. You've got the texture of the skin of the pomegranates. There's the seeds as well. They look sort of juicy, don't they? You know, I like these sort of pictures where you show the whole fruit and then the break one open and show the contents as well. Pomegranates and the colours of pomegranate red are particularly good for that. Controlled your lighting just to hold that in the middle there. I like the two little highlights on the pomegranate themselves. Your lighting source coming in from the right hand side. Maybe there's one area there of white just to the edge of the cut section. Maybe you could just burn that down a fraction because there's detail in there that is perhaps a little bit bright. But I like the way you've vignetted this and held the center really. There's detail in the corners, but not distracting in any way. And it's not easy actually to get the composition out of 2.5 pomegranates. I think the way you've positioned these, where you've got a diagonal from the sort of left-hand one going up to the right-hand one from the top surfaces there, works well. 17, please.
I love you.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so. But I think this is lovely. It really does capture the relationship, I think, between I presume it's mother and daughter. It could be auntie and niece, I suppose, but I'm assuming it's mother and daughter. beautifully photographed. Lots of, well, there's not an area here which doesn't work photographically. There's nothing burnt out. There's nothing blocked out. You've got this lovely relationship between the eyes of the young girl and the mother there, particularly with the young girl, because you've got the white of her eyes there, and that draws me to that central spot. But you've actually genuinely shown emotion and affection in this picture. It's not contrived. It's posed, but it's not contrived. And they both are enjoying having this picture taken. And I think the way that the mother's got her hands sort of clasped around the daughter there, protective and also embracing, again shows a physical relationship between the two subjects there. And and the lady herself is not just standing upright. In fact, she's leaning back there, gives us again some more interesting lines, some interesting shapes to the image, which perhaps other photographers wouldn't have thought about. They would just have her standing straight up, holding the daughter, and say the lighting's been well controlled as well. I wasn't going to hold that back, but I will, please. Sometimes you look at pictures for a second or third time, they start to grow on you, and that one did. So I'll hold that one back.
Eyes on the prize.
Yeah, I think they look at their faces. They've been playing this a few years, some of these, and still enjoying it though, aren't they? And you've caught the action well here. This moment, again, of sports photography with lots happening, maybe taking your pictures on rapid fire, and you get one that works for you. And I think this one does. I particularly enjoy the fact you've got the ball completely separated from the players there, and the players, the three on the left-hand side, are all joined together. You've got this feeling of determination and look on their faces. Again, they're moving targets, but they're all sharp. The detail is all there. And I'm enjoying the facial expressions on them all as well. I suppose to be a really dramatic rugby picture, you want a bit of mud and a bit of grunge, even a bit of pain, if you like. And maybe those elements are missing a bit from this. But I still think you caught the moment fairly well. 16, please.
Let me out.
You wouldn't argue with it, would you? It's a beast. Yeah, I remember once, a little anecdote, just to mention it. One of my first camera clubs, when I kind of lived in Watford, and I joined a camera club up there as a very sort of young novice photographer, and I put a picture of a pig into a competition, and the judge was really critical of it, and he said, you can't just put a picture of a pig's face in, it's got to be doing more. And I thought, well, it's a bit harsh, and it's a lesson learned that people sometimes with their photography, it's early days for them, and you shouldn't be too critical. So I felt quite deflated from that judge's comments. Having said that, this picture doesn't come into that category because it is actually interesting, and it's a portrait of an animal, and I do feel that the character of the boar, could be a sow, it comes through well, and there's almost a mixture of aggression and comedy coming through in the face there. The eye is very, very penetrating, and that has been caught well, almost like a sardonic grin with that little bit of tusk just going through the bottom there as well. And the fact you've got the face framed within the frame of the gate there, I think, yeah, it does look like he's actually looking out of a hole in a jail cell or something, doesn't it? But there's some character there, and I say it does come through particularly well. 16, please.
A winter's day.
Yeah, panoramic landscape here. And I think the panoramic format works well because it gives us that width and that breadth to this quite desolate, almost more landscape, more type landscape. There is some interest in here, and I like the specific use of the trees as reference points in your picture. I think works well, particularly the ones on the left-hand side there. And I think there's a picture in itself there with the sheep in the foreground of those trees and the strong dominant silhouettes and shapes of that lovely sort of semicircle of trees on the horizon there. I think does work well. But then the ones in the distance just dropping out, softer focus, and the aerial perspective is just changing slightly, gives that feeling of depth through the mist and through the cloud there. It's a picture you have to let your eye settle into, because at first you don't think there's a lot of detail in here, but actually look at that stone walling in the foreground, and the sheep in that midground, and on the far right hand side there's a picket fence going up through the picture as well. So there's a lot of well caught detail in here, and the lighting, although not actually dramatic, is quite subtle. I think there's some lighting just coming through the cloud there, just diffuse lighting, and it just gives us a little bit of shadow and a little bit of texture. 16, please.
Water Lily Dreams.
I think you've actually made a fairly good layered composite image here. The creativity. I enjoy the detail that you've got in the center of the picture, particularly, which you obviously deliberately left really sort of more unadulterated by your background layer. And the color and the detail and the texture on those stamens coming up is pleasing to the eye. You've layered this with something which gives it like almost like wallpaper actually, but it gives us this feeling of very, very strong brush strokes, which I think perhaps that's what you're trying to actually emulate. Although you've entitled it Dreams, it has more of a painterly feel to me than a dreamy feel. But I like the overall effect. I think it's worked well. The soft pastel tones of the bulk of the picture, I think, contrast well with the slightly stronger tones for the center part of the picture as well. 17 for that one, please.
Right, that was the last of the main images.
Okay.
So we go to the
can you light box them for me, Phil? Is that possible?
Right.
I'll see them one at a time. Whatever's easier.
I can step you through one at a time if that's okay.
Can we do right? Yeah. Can we do a run through one at a time? Then a second time I'll score. Is that possible?
Yes, that'll be fine. Yeah. So I don't think I can get a. Let's see if I can get the held back and the light box.
Well, don't worry, it's a problem.
They're coming up. No, I can't do that.
No, okay, we can run through once, then I'll.
Yeah. Okay.
The second time through, please.
Right. Okay. So this was OC View. Sunrise in the mist. Yellow baboons at dawn. Humpback whales. Coffee time. Micrometer. Felixstowe flow. Frozen, can't pronounce it. And I love you.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to go back to the top?
Yes, that'd be fine, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's some really good images here tonight, and to me, these are the 8, or I think it's 9 there, the next one back, are the best. I think they're the strongest photographically, but they're also the ones that I relate to more as well. That to me, as a person looking at this art form, I really respond to these images. So it's a combination of them being strong photographically, technically, and creatively, but also the way that I, as the judge on this occasion, respond to them. And not all judges will see things in the same way. So that's just a subjectivity, really. Right, I won't talk too much about the individual images because I've done that already, and I'll be sending you to sleep otherwise. So that's a 19, please. Yeah, it's just that little bit of work around that full rush. I think is minus. It's only minor. That's an 18, please. Yeah, there's a lot going for this image, but the lighting really works in your favour, and early morning light, of course, is the part of the title. That's a 20, please. Yeah, completely different, unique image. 19, please. So I really do like the way that's been created. That's a 20.
Sorry, was it 20?
20, please.
Yes.
I think just for an illustration of just taking a picture of a simple subject, but knowing your photographic craft well to photograph it well. This is a good example. 18, please. Yeah, quite a classic landscape, and maybe one which you know, has been photographed a few times, but still doesn't mean that this one doesn't have merit, because it does. And I enjoy the lighting contrast very much. 18 for that one. Yeah, yeah, I did like the way this was presented and the way it's taken. 19, please. 18, please.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
If you bear with me a moment, I'll see.
Yeah. And from those two, you want one of my choice for the evening as well, don't you?
Yes, please. Yes. Okay, this is the results. Colchester first with 91. Halstead second with 88. Mersey third with 85. Clacton fourth with 81. Harwich fifth with 80. Maldon sixth with 79. And Braintree seventh with 73.
Well done.
Thank you very much. And again, I'll send out the individual scores after the competition. So, but that's the so Colchester one. We don't actually need the reserves. So well done, Colchester. Would you like to tell us your?
Yeah, I had two 20s there.
Image?
There are two 20s there, the coffee cup picture and the baboons in the light. Both completely different images, and I enjoy them both very much. I wouldn't have given them 20s. But the one I think just edged it for me is the coffee cup image, so that would be my favourite of the evening. Thank you.
Okay, lovely. I don't know whether you want to quickly go through the reserves.
I'm happy to do so, but only if
okay.
your audience wants that as well. It's up to you.
Yes, I mean, I think it would just a quick look through would be interesting, I think.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
I'll make a few brief comments on them if you wish.
Yes, okay, fine. I'll just quickly go through them then. So we've got one image from each club then.
Do you actually want me to give them a score, Phil, or just critique them?
Well, I don't mind. You can just critique them.
I would have given them a score, so I'm sure the photographers might like to know what that was.
Okay, fine. That would be great. Okay,
yeah, I enjoyed this portrait.
Natasha, this is called.
Yeah, full on, straight ahead, very symmetrical portrait, isn't it? In many ways, and emphasised by the hands there as well, and the coloration of the clothing she's wearing, and her nail polish, and her skin tones and her hair. I think that all works particularly well. Your lighting is well controlled, nothing too harsh there, fairly sort of diffused but straight on lighting, not giving us too much shadowed modelling. But I quite like that in this sort of image, and that would have been an 18.
Right. American ex-serviceman.
Yeah, much filling the frame much more with the face than just concentrating on the face itself as opposed to any other part of the body. You certainly do get engaging engagement with him, don't you? I think because you've got the camera really so close in, though, that to me that nose just dominates the portrait a little bit, and it's almost like it's sort of pressing up against your lens, and I find that a little bit distracting. So that would have been a 15.
Screwscape.
Yeah, it's an effect I've seen done before. To be honest, I don't think this is quite as effective, because you can get some sort of a probably a Photoshop filter of some sort just to change the effect of it. And I just think it loses a little bit of detail in the individual screws. And just a minor point, I think, because this is quite depending, sort of emphasizing the reflection, I think, as well as the actual screws themselves. It would be nice if you could have included the complete reflection below, as opposed to truncating part of it. So that would be a 15 also.
Okay, this is Norfolk Seashore.
Yeah, quite how that's Norfolk Seashore.
Yes.
I presume it's a bit of intentional camera movement with some sort of Christmas lights or pier lights or something. But I like the effect. It's quite psychedelic. And it's, yeah, I like pattern pictures, and it's got a definite sort of movement and flow to it. So that would have been a 16. This next one's going to test your pronunciation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm not very good on plants. Erythonium or something of that type.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, quite like the lighting here. Quite strong lighting coming in from the top, and it sort of it diffuses through the flower itself, and I like the effect that creates. Gives us some shadow and some texture as well. Yeah, I quite like the way you presented this by having the stalks of the flowers just dissecting the coachline and the bottom there as well. I enjoy that bit. That would have been a 16, please.
And this is Golden Eagle.
Yeah, this is a cracking image. You know, I don't know whose this is, but if it was one of the clubs that didn't score quite as highly, you probably missed a trick rather, because it's a very, to me anyhow, it's a strong shot. You've caught that moment of the eagle just ripping its prey to pieces well, and I like the sort of bleak background of the snowy sleet just coming down as well. So I would have given that a 20.
Yes, that was Colchester actually. And tunnel vision.
Yeah, I quite like this, because it's underneath some sort of reservoir aqueduct or something, isn't it? But you've got this very pleasing recession here of the of the edifice, the sort of opening, sort of drawing you back through into the distance. It must be quite a big structure, this, wherever it is. And then you've either put these two people at the bottom, or just saw them and photographed them, and it gives us a real sense of scale and detail. So I thought that was what they call a well-seen picture. 16 for that one, please.
Right, fine. Okay, thank you very much, Tony.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Tony very much for an enjoyable evening, for his perceptive comments. It's a shame Colchester won again, but never mind.
We'll let you win last year.
No, that is true. Yes.
It means, Phil, that they've got to organise it next year, so it's not all lost.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Yes. But anyway, Tony, that was, it's been very enjoyable, and it's nice to see somebody from another area. So thank you very much for the evening. It's been very good.
Thank you for inviting me.
Can I just thank you as well, Tony, on behalf of the winning club? Thank you very much. Hey. The one thing about Zoom and the COVID-19 is it's allowing us to see judges from around the country, instead of the same old boring faces around here. So, thank you very much for your comments.
You're welcome.
As judges, we always listen to judges' comments. We hang on every word. I agree with majority of your comments, and it was a pleasure to see them all go through. And thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you.
I can't say have a safe journey home because you're at home.
That's one of the nice things now about judging.
Yes,
I haven't got an hour's drive home in the dark.
An hour? Oh.
Yeah, well, hour and a half sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you anyway.
You're welcome. Thank you
very much, Tony.
Could we know who the 20s belong to who the authors of the images that got 20 were.
Oh, yeah, who's the winning image, Phil? Who got the chosen one?
That was Halstead.
It was,
The coffee cup.
Yeah.
yeah, Lorraine
Okay.
Green.
Well done.
Well done, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Well done.
Let me see if I can show you the.
Well done, Lorraine.
Thank you.